The notion of memento mori, or remember that you will die, is an ancient philosophy that connects us directly with Stoicism. In our daily lives, it's easy to forget the finitude of our existence. We become distracted by immediate pleasures, trivial concerns, and distant dreams that often fade into the everyday. We find ourselves increasingly disconnected from our surroundings and from ourselves. The constant exposure to social media, video games, and the endless flow of content leads us to a mindset of instant gratification. Deep reflection, contemplation of the purpose of our lives, and our mortality seem to be relegated to the background. This phenomenon is not just a philosophical problem. It has a tangible impact on our mental health. Increasing levels of anxiety and depression in modern society may be partially linked to this disconnection from the realities of life and death. These distractions are not exclusive to our era. Throughout history, humanity has struggled to stay focused on what truly matters. However, in the modern world, constant connectivity and information overload have elevated these distractions to an unprecedented level. Our lives are flooded with stimuli vying for our attention, from notifications on our phones to the never-ending news cycle. We face a paradox. While technology has increased longevity and comfort, it has also clouded our vision of what it truly means to live fully. The Stoics, on the other hand, offer us a powerful tool to cut through that fog and reconnect with the basic reality of our existence, the certainty of death. By confronting the inescapable reality of our mortality, the Stoics invite us to live in a more authentic and meaningful way. Memento Mori is not a gloomy or pessimistic concept. Rather, it is a tool that transforms our perception of time and life itself. It reminds us that each moment is valuable, that every action carries weight, and that each day lived is an irreplaceable opportunity. Every moment holds immeasurable value. Think for a moment about all the times you've spent hours seeking mindless entertainment or worrying about things that were beyond your control. These activities may seem harmless at the moment, but when accumulated over weeks, months, or years, they become bricks that build a life without direction or purpose. The Stoics urge us to be present, to value the here and now. It is not about living with fear or anxiety, but about acting with the full awareness that every day counts and that every small gesture can change your life and the lives of others. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful emperors of the ancient world and a practitioner of Stoicism, constantly reflected on death. For Marcus Aurelius, each sunrise brought the opportunity to practice the art of living consciously. In his meditations, it is clear how reflection on death did not weaken him but strengthened him. Day after day, he reminded himself that death was near, not as a morbid obsession, but as a way to keep his mind clear. This exercise allowed him to navigate political, military, and personal challenges without losing emotional control. His leadership during times of great crisis, such as the Antonine Plague, forced him to confront both the mortality of his people and his own. While other emperors chose denial or indulgence in the face of death, Marcus Aurelius maintained his Stoic serenity, reminding us that true strength lies in accepting the inevitable without losing clarity or purpose. In his life, death was not an end, but rather the great silent teacher that accompanied him, guiding him through the turmoil of his time. Far from being an obsessive concern, for him, it was a catalyst that propelled him to be better each day. Imagine for a moment that you wake up each day with the awareness that it could be your last. Life, when viewed through that lens, becomes something extremely precious. What once seemed like a minor annoyance, such as an argument in the supermarket line or morning traffic, loses all significance. Problems that previously felt insurmountable are put into perspective, and we realize that, at the end of the day, what truly matters is how we live and whom we love. Memento Mori not only invites us to reflect on our own lives, but also on how we relate to others. Cultivating deep and meaningful relationships becomes paramount when we understand the transience of our existence. Small gestures of kindness and understanding toward those we love take on immense weight, as we know the time we share is limited. The Stoics understood that while we cannot control everything that happens to us, we can control how we respond to what occurs. That is one of the most powerful lessons we can learn from them. By accepting death, we also learn to embrace life in all its fullness, with its ups and downs, joys and sorrows. Death ceases to be something we fear, and instead becomes a silent ally that urges us to make the most of every moment. Imagine that a loved one suddenly passes away. In the midst of pain, sadness, and mourning, it's natural to question why we didn't spend more time with them or why we didn't tell them more often how important they were to us. These reflections, though hard, are necessary for us to learn and live more consciously. If we all knew our days were numbered, we would likely focus on what truly matters: human relationships, love, generosity, and gratitude. The Stoics teach us to live as if each day were our last. But how does that translate into our daily lives? It means not postponing what is important. How many times have we put off a call, an apology, or a simple expression of affection towards someone close to us for tomorrow? Memento Mori compels us to question that emotional procrastination. It invites us to act today, knowing that tomorrow is not guaranteed. This approach does not seek to promote anxiety but rather a full and conscious life, where our everyday actions align with our deepest values. It means expressing what we feel now, acting with kindness now, being grateful now. This is not about desperate urgency, but rather a calm and mindful approach to life. Often, in modern times, we try to distance ourselves from death. We prefer not to think about it. We avoid it through entertainment, social media, and the countless stimuli that surround us. But in doing so, we also drift away from a fulfilling life. Stoicism encourages us to do the opposite, to contemplate our mortality directly and use that reflection to live more meaningfully. Modern society, with its advances in medicine and technology, has distanced death from our daily experience. The modern obsession with eternal youth and the denial of aging reflects our collective fear of death. The beauty industry and medical advancements attempt to postpone the signs of aging, but what we are truly postponing is the confrontation with our finitude. Stoicism teaches us that, instead of avoiding death, we should find in it a source of wisdom and direction. We no longer see death as closely as our ancestors did. In past times, death was a constant companion, during wars, plagues, and high infant mortality rates. Today, death has become something that happens behind closed doors, in hospitals or nursing homes, and we prefer not to talk about it. But by avoiding this topic, we also miss out on a profound source of wisdom. Reflecting on our own mortality is not a sign of weakness, but of strength. It is the only way we can live with true freedom. When the Stoics speak of death, they do so not from a fatalistic perspective, but from a place of acceptance. We cannot control when or how we will die, but we can control how we live until that moment. Here is where we find our power. Instead of lamenting death, we use it as a compass that guides us toward a more authentic and valuable life. For example, imagine that you are stuck in a job that doesn't satisfy you, surrounded by people with whom you feel no connection. Day after day, you feel trapped in a routine that seems endless. Now, introduce the concept of Memento Mori. If you knew your days were numbered, would you continue doing the same thing? Would you keep living a life that doesn't fulfill you? This is the question that Memento Mori invites us to ask ourselves. This reflection, though uncomfortable, has the potential to radically transform our existence. Instead of living under the illusion that we have unlimited time, Memento Mori awakens us to the reality that there are no guarantees. It serves as a reminder that the big dreams and goals we postpone may never come to fruition if we don't take action now. There's no need to wait for a terminal illness or a personal crisis to start living more meaningfully. The Stoics invite us to act now, to embrace urgency without falling into despair. Every moment is an opportunity to align our actions with our values. The constant reminder of our mortality should not be something that paralyzes us with fear, but rather something that motivates us to make changes. If we are not satisfied with our lives, the awareness that time is limited might be just what we need to take action. Memento Mori is not just a passive reflection, it is a call to action. Some see death as the absolute end, a dark and unfathomable void. However, The Stoics view it as a natural part of life, something inevitable that we should accept rather than fear. The Stoic acceptance of death is not resignation but a form of liberation. By recognizing that death is part of our destiny, we stop clinging to what doesn't matter and focus on what does. A fundamental aspect of this philosophy is the notion that by remembering our mortality, we also remember that we are not the center of the universe. Life will go on, the world will continue to turn, and our legacy is not necessarily in what we leave behind, but in how we impact those around us. Every interaction we have, every word we speak, has the potential to profoundly influence others. Our legacy is not always measured in monuments or material achievements. Often, the deepest impact we leave on the world lies in the memories and emotions we evoke in others. A gesture of kindness, a word of encouragement, or an act of generosity can resonate far beyond our own lives, influencing future generations. Memento Mori, then, not only invites us to live for ourselves but also for others. It encourages us to be a source of light in the lives of the people with whom we share this brief journey. It urges us to act with compassion, empathy, and love, knowing that ultimately, we all share the same fate. One of the most powerful lessons of Memento Mori is that life is fragile and there are no guarantees. By acknowledging this, we learn to appreciate even the smallest moments. The morning coffee, the sound of the wind in the trees, the laughter of a friend, all take on deeper meaning when we understand that it could be the last time we experience them. For the Stoics, living with this kind of awareness does not mean living in a constant state of sadness or fear. On the contrary, it means living with joy, gratitude, and the certainty that each moment is a gift. And at the end of the day, that is what Memento Mori truly teaches us. That death, far from being the end, can be the key to living a life filled with purpose, meaning, and love. The philosopher Seneca, another great representative of Stoicism, wrote extensively about the importance of not wasting time. For him, death was not to be feared, but a reminder that time is our most valuable resource. We cannot buy more time, we cannot extend it indefinitely. The clock keeps ticking, and we have the responsibility to decide how we use those minutes. Seneca pointed out that we live as if we have all the time in the world when, in reality, we are mortgaging our present for a future that may never come. This perspective error leads us to postpone our true priorities, self-actualization, relationships, and gratitude, in pursuit of goals that ultimately lack meaning without a present lived fully. Seneca reminds us that lost time is never regained. By accepting our mortality, we can finally embrace the present, letting go of unnecessary complaints, resentment, and procrastination. In summary, Memento Mori calls us to confront our own mortality in a way that inspires us to live better. It reminds us that death is not something to be feared, but rather something to be accepted and used as a tool to guide us in life. It invites us to act with urgency, yet with serenity, knowing that each moment is a one-time opportunity. Death is not the enemy. The true enemy is living without purpose, direction, or love. By remembering that we will die, we also remember that we are alive, and that, ultimately, is what matters. In the end, Memento Mori delivers an inescapable truth. Life is temporary, fragile, but also beautiful in its imperfection. Each new day brings us an opportunity to be mindful, to love more deeply, and to live with purpose. While the cycle of life continues, the choice of how we spend our days rests entirely in our hands. If you enjoyed this video about Memento Mori and how reflecting on death can help you live a fuller life, I invite you to explore other videos on our channel. You'll find more content about philosophy, history, and timeless lessons that can transform your perspective on the world. Don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming posts. If you have any thoughts or comments on the topic, we would love to hear them. Your opinion enriches this community. And if you know someone who would benefit from these teachings, feel free to share the video. Thank you for being a part of this community.